questions that dealt with spirituality. Some dealt with finance, child rearing, sex. We asked each other a lot of questions just to make sure, hey, I think I'm pretty sure about you.
Did your house caught on fire like in the cold, dark, 24-hour nightness of Alaska, or did it?
This was in the winter time. I just wanted to make sure that whatever decisions that I made had a positive impact on the people I love or the community in which I serve. No matter what I do, cannot control the actions of another human being, even if it's my child.
What's up, man? It's your boy, Coach Crump from the Boy Man King podcast. Excited for our first ever episode with none other than my special guest, Mason West. Man, excited to have you, Mason, man. So look, I want to get right into it. First of all, how has your experiences been? We're at the Pigeon Forge retreat here for the prayer line. How has your experience been so far?
It's been great. I very seldom get this opportunity to get really with anybody, but especially with the brothers from the prayer line. And I almost was unable to make it. I'm just happy that I was able to come.
Yeah, man. I'm happy that you're here too. And what I love about your story, the parts that I know about, is your unique childhood. Kind of take us back to what were some of the pivotal experiences and lessons that you gained from your childhood?
Wow. Well, I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. My parents met there. My father was in the Air Force, and my mother worked as an accountant for the Air Force Base. She was a civil servant. So they met there. They both had come from previous marriages. My father had 7 daughters from his previous marriage. My mother had 1 daughter and 2 sons. And they lived with her at that time. And so I was born there in Anchorage, Alaska. My parents, after my father retired from the Air Force, bought a house in like this mountain suburb of Anchorage, Alaska called Eagle River. That was probably my earliest memory because I was in a house fire.
Wow.
Yeah, our house caught on fire late at night, and I didn't have my own room.
Hold on. So did your house caught on fire like in the cold, dark, 24-hour nightness of Alaska, or did it?
This was in the winter time.
And
it wasn't like deep in the winter. It was I think it was like in October.
So doesn't Alaska have like 24 hours of just darkness?
Not where I live, like in the northern most parts of Alaska, where I lived, in the summertime, the sun will come up at around 4 a.m. and go down at about 11 p.m. And then it's kind of the opposite, in the winter. The sun will come up at like 9 a.m. and go down at like 2 or 3 p.m.
Like in a traditional American experience, we got like commonality with people who live in our region. What's the common kid things do you guys like go outside, play sandlot, football, baseball? Like, what was the common like child experience socially?
Everything was pretty much the same. You know, life in Anchorage, Alaska was different from what we called the lower 48 states. It didn't, where I lived, it didn't look, that much differently. We played all the same sports, did all the same games. We may have done, we may have gone camping and fishing and all-terrain vehicles and things like that a little more than the average person. But yeah, it wasn't that much different.
So tell me, what was your big takeaway from your father when you was a boy, when you was younger, as a child? Like, what were some of the key things you remember him saying and doing or watching by example? What were some of the things that you took away from your father?
Yeah, from my father, it was pretty much work ethic. It was pretty much, investing all your talents in what you were doing and being the best person that you can be. I never remember him using like the same phrase all of the time. Yeah, it was just the expectation that you did your best at whatever you did.
Got it. So as you transition, that any point when you leave your childhood to adolescence, how did your relationship with your father make a pivoting towards your attitude or towards your relationship dynamics while you was older but still in the house in high school or maybe even college, but still kind of really connected to the day to day. Did anything dynamically change in your relationship or your perspective?
No, my father was pretty much clear about when you went from boyhood to manhood.
Mm.
So there,
How was he? Like, how did what happened with that?
no, just as far as a boy, decisions were made for you.
Mm.
You were taught, you know, lessons. You were expected to apply those lessons, and then at a certain age, I guess I was around 16 or 17. It became far more. It's about when I started driving. It became far more about your own decisions. So
Mm.
there was a point that my father no longer called me a boy. There was a point where I wasn't directly given lessons that I was expected to apply,
Mm.
but I was um, given permission, I guess, to make my own decisions. I
Got it.
just had to live with the consequences
Got
of
it.
those decisions. My parents at that young age would never let me go too far in that type of decision making, but definitely my father created a space where there was a transition from boyhood to manhood.
Awesome. Do you remember kind of quickly like what age you were significantly like when that was happening?
Yeah, I was around 16. It's when I started driving.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Hmm.
So we fast forward a little bit. Now you're out the house.
Hmm.
You're doing what you do, and you decide to take on additional responsibilities as a man
Hmm.
when it comes to your significant other or your children and your children. When that first process of you getting married, having your first child, what's kind of some of the things that's running through your mind at the initial stages of you making a decision to make these huge lifelong commitments?
I just wanted to make sure that whatever decisions that I made had a positive impact on the people I loved or the community in which I served. So I guess based on uh, my father's approach to things, I just did my research on
Mm.
things because I wanted to make the right decision. And
Yeah,
that played out with my marriage and my children.
yeah,
Yeah.
your particular research that you did with your wife, man. Can you kind of expound upon that? Because I think that's like a hidden gem that so many people in relationships with their spouse or potential spouse can really benefit from. Can you tell you? I think you guys went to the library and asked each other some questions, or you read a book. Can you talk us about that?
Yeah, my wife and I met in Oakwood College, now Oakwood University, when I was a sophomore and she was a freshman. And when we started dating, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't make any mistakes. So at around that time, I had friends who were also dating, and you kind of heard the horror stories of dating. You kind of
Mm.
heard the consequences of engaging in sexual activity too earlier, or being involved in relationships superficially. So when we decided, hey, we might be serious about each other, we made a date every day to go to the library, Oakwood College Library, and we would read this book called Adventist Home by Ellen White, who's a prominent member in the Seventh Day Adventist Church.
Mm.
And we would do two things based on what we would read. How could we apply it in the relationship that we had, and what would we want, for a marriage? If
Mm.
if we got married and we had children and we built a life together. And I thought that was a significant part of our relationship. It really set a strong foundation. It kept us from being superficial. It kept us for just
Mm.
worrying about or focusing on superficial things, and
Mm.
it really gave us a chance to really know each other, because we had to ask ourselves some deep questions about what we believed about God, what we believed about this world, about family, deal with each other's past and expectations for the future,
How
and
many
so that
questions?
worked out.
How many questions you think in that book that you guys actually ask each other?
Man, I don't know, because we did this for almost a year,
Every
and
day?
yeah, every day except the weekends, except Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We were we would spend time in the library because you'd go to the library naturally to do your homework and stuff.
Mm.
So we would go to the library. It's like a Monday through Thursday thing. Before we did our homework, we'd read a chapter or half a chapter of Adventist Home, and based on what were reading, we would ask each other questions. You know,
Mm.
and so and they were some were questions that dealt with spirituality, some dealt with finance, child rearing, sex. We asked each other a lot of questions just to make sure, hey, I think I'm pretty sure about you, because neither of us ever wanted to. And I don't know why I thought this way at that age, but neither of us ever wanted to even think the word divorce, or that we could not get through something together.
Mm. Awesome. So, how many children you have, Mason?
I have 4 children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you become a father. Can you tell us what fatherhood has taught you?
Fatherhood has taught me, number one, my capacity for love. Uh, Fatherhood has really taught me patience, and it also has taught me the influence one human being can have over the life
Mm.
and the destiny of another human being.
Mm.
And I'm not even talking about grand measures. I'm talking about daily interactions you have in the small things.
Got you.
I'm talking about the little things you say and that you do. But I guess the most important thing that it's taught me of late is no matter what I do, cannot control the actions of another human being.
Wow.
Even if it's my child and I've exercised a good amount of authority over them, over their life, they
Mm.
have their own mind, and at some point they're going to make decisions that aren't necessarily a product of my child rearing. It's a product of how their mind is developed, and at some point they come to the point where they can make their own decisions, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, that's one of the keys that you gave me that helped me in my journey as a man. When you talked about, we all have to understand that everybody has free will, and that's a huge nugget that you always share to the men that you be coaching. Can you expound on why is that so important for people to understand who are trying to get other people to get things done with them?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, and you know, according to Christian tradition, God created Lucifer perfect,
Mm.
and this is a perfect God who created a perfect being and gave that perfect being free will. This was a being that stood in the presence of God, and was the most powerful being,
Mm.
created being in the universe, and that being still rebelled. That being still
Mm.
rebelled against a
Come
perfect
on,
God.
man.
That being still looked at an
Wow.
omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, God, and said, I don't love you anymore,
Mm.
and I'm going to go to war with you.
Mm.
Um, that helped me to understand that, with my children, you know, no matter how much, I express love for them, no matter what schools I sent them to, no
Mm.
matter how much, I reared them,
Yeah.
they have free will,
Mm.
and there comes a point with my children, all of them, significantly around 18, 19 years old, they had free will and they exercise it. And there's absolutely nothing that I can do about it except love them unconditionally. And I try to tell fathers that and others that um, who want their children, to be a perfect product or result of their will,
Mm.
or their engagement and their interaction, and it's just not possible. And many fathers forget themselves as boys and young men, and
Mm.
that all the great lessons their parents taught them, they still did not do exactly what their parents said or live up to their parents' expectation. Free
Wow.
will is a powerful thing.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. That was awesome, man. I know our listeners going to benefit from that. So we talked about your childhood. We talked about you first stepping into decision making on your own. Talked about you managing fatherhood. What are some things as a leader, in particular, leader of those coming after you? Particularly young men, boys, or even men. What are some key principles you try to exuding your own leadership style, or also teach?
Well, the first thing that I try to impart to others is an understanding of human nature. You know that the different human beings that uh, we engage, those who we interact with, they are dynamic, emotional, physical, and spiritual beings, and those dynamic beings have gone through different experiences that shape the way they behave, shape how they believe. And one of the most important things I feel you can do as a leader is understand, that you are dealing with a dynamic human being, and that takes patience, that takes thought, that takes strategy,
Got you.
you know, in order to lead. So that's the most important thing that I try to get people to understand. Secondly, as far as leadership is investment, the investment of your time and your energy. If you're going to lead people, are you willing to make the investment to lead? And
Wow.
I guess a lot of people think leading is just, telling people
What
what
to
to
do?
do, right? Or it's just you coming up with an idea that you feel everybody should accept immediately. And that's just not the case. You know, when you're leading people, there's, because of the understanding I talked about, there's listening skills that you have to develop. There's an exchange relationship that you have to develop where when you listen to people, you may be going in a specific direction or trying to take people in a specific direction, but they help create that direction. They help create that path,
Got it.
because uh, I've only got one set of talents and skills. I might have a vision, but I may not have all the skills and talents necessary to fulfill that vision. So there are other people that I have to get to buy into that vision, and then they help build it. They take ownership of it also.
Got you.
And if I can understand and help people take ownership and have the patience, I think those are two important things as far as leadership is concerned.
Yeah, that's, man, I love it. I love it. So thank you for sharing all the things that you've been sharing. Here at the Boy Man King podcast, we also want you to kind of leave us with a final thought when it comes to what do you think we need to do as a people, as a community, as humanity, to help with helping boys become the men that we're trying to get them to become.
Yeah, I run a rites of passage program, and the one of the things that I found is most important in rites of passage program is if you are helping boys become men, manhood has to be defined. You know, and we tell the boys, that a man is a priest, provider, protector, and patron, and have them, repeat that and have them define that, and then give them a path towards manhood where someone who has taken that path before them, they declare them a man. Too many boys are searching for this concept of manhood, and they don't know what it is. They seek to determine it themselves. So it's a totally different thing where someone else bestows a title on you. It has far more meaning to you. So one thing I think is very important for our society is a grand step like that should be defined. And then the last thing that I would say is, as a people, how do we exist in this space as a people? I think we forget that we are a people. We have allowed down through time, others to divide us by very superficial things, color of our skin, religion, nationality, gender roles, and things like that. And we forget that we are, a people because of these superficial divisions that are only placed on us so that we will go after each other's throats while someone else controls the resources we need.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we can define humanity, manhood, and then if we can work to exist in those spaces as one people, I think there's will be a lot of hope for the human race.
Yeah. So Mason, you're a dynamic speaker, author, entrepreneur who's also a leader in the education space for over 30 years now? 30?
Something like that, yeah.
Where can people find more about you, about your resources, about your programs? Like, what is Mason up to now?
Oh, right now I'm the director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at an independent school in Northeast Georgia called Rabin Gap Nkuchi School, and that's rabingap.org. If you want to find out about that school and the wonderful programs that we are doing, I have a nonprofit called Nation Builders. That's nationbuilderslead.com. You can go to that website to find out what we're doing locally and nationally.
Awesome. Mason West, appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.